This is Meet the Movie Press. It's Friday, July the 12th, 2019. On the show today, Dexter Fletcher's Sherlock, Marvel as Millie Bobby Brown, Mulan and Momo, plus Lion King, Crawl and Stuber reviewed, and the box office and more. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk, we talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Meet the Movie Press.
On the week before Comic-Con, this is Meet the Movie Press, Friday, July the 12th, 2019. Hello, my name is Simon Thompson. You give us 60 minutes and we give you some stuff about the movies. With me on the panel this week, Scott and Wendy. Wendy, welcome back.
Thank you.
For those people who aren't familiar with your work already, who are you and where can we find you?
I'm Wendy Lee. I'm a Virgo. You can find me. It sounds like an ad to date. You can find me over at Collider at times. I also run my own YouTube channel, The Movie Couple, with my husband. We do trailer reactions, movie reviews, TV reviews, and sometimes we eat in our vlogs, which has become quite popular. People like watching us eat. I don't know.
Okay.
We like food, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, Scott, do you eat food on the internet?
No, because I would get a much different reaction if I did.
Who are you and where can we find you?
You know what? Yeah.
For those who don't know, of course.
Okay. You can find me at weliveentertainment.com. You could find me on Twitter and Instagram at TheOtherScottM.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. We also, big important part of the show, it's great to have us three here, but really in the chat, the audience, you listening or watching right now, really, really important part of the show, because without you, we wouldn't be here. So hello to Film Nerd Jamie, who's in the chat already. Good morning, all. Good morning. Blackwalk 3160, good morning, everyone. Zeno Hour's in there, hello, and also says, Wendy!
Hi!
Which is great. So great to have you back, Wendy. Thank you so much. Really important, if you are watching the show live, we do really like you taking part in the show within the YouTube chat, so please do that. It's always much appreciated. Okay, here's a story that broke yesterday afternoon. Dexter Fletcher going to be directing Sherlock 3, the first two made by Guy Ritchie. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr. coming back for this one. A lot of people surprised that RDJJR wanted to do this. And do you think Dexter's a good choice? Wendy on this one, first of all.
For one, I don't think I'm surprised at all that Robert Downey Jr. wanted to come back to do it. I mean, you get to be Sherlock Holmes. It's, just one of the most fantastic characters ever. And I really do love his take on it. I am kind of surprised that they're doing a third one. I love the first one the most. The second one I could do without a rewatch. But I'm very curious. I'm very intrigued now we're getting a new director. So I wonder if Dexter is going to give us that same vibe as Guy Ritchie with like the ramping and the zooming in and the GoPro, his style, his action-esque style to this one, or is Dexter going to bring something completely different, which I welcome, I think.
Scott on this.
I think it's a nice change of pace for Dexter Fletcher.
Yes.
This is something that, a lot of people have been talking about, that he's been doing these musical biopics. He's done 2 in a row now. It's going to be interesting to see him make the transition over to like this action comedy. And like Wendy, I really do like Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock Holmes. I think his personality, again, almost like Iron Man, it fits him.
Yeah.
And that's why those movies are fun. But I do also agree with you, the first one's far better than the second one.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree on that. The first one was so original.
Yeah.
It was original based on an idea that obviously has been around for a long time. But it was a really nice take. The second one I thought was fine, and it did good money. But again, I could have done without it. I think one of the benefits that the Dexter's going to bring to this is really the fact that the musical dramas, musical comedies that he's done with Proclaimers, and then obviously with Elton John for Rocket Man, I think will give him the beats that he needs for the action, which he has not needed for things like Eddie the Eagle. But there were certain beats that he hit in Wild Bill, his directorial debut, which I don't know how much of an audience it had here over in the States, that he really had, which is actually quite similar to a lot of the stuff that Guy Ritchie has directed previously, like Snatch and Lock, Stock. So I think there are a lot of tones in there and beats that they'll hit that are going to be quite similar. So I think it's a really good choice to have Dexter doing it. But I think Dexter's going to bring something a little bit different, more pop video-y, where I think actually Guy Ritchie bringing that to Aladdin worked sometimes, but not all the time. So what do you think about that? Do you think actually he might do a better job than Guy Ritchie?
It's... The thing is, Guy Ritchie's style, and for me, hasn't really worked for a while.
Okay.
And that's just a personal opinion. I really liked what he's done in the past, and he has a very specific style, and he sticks to it, which I appreciate. So when you walk into a Guy Ritchie film, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You can't walk out and be like, whoa, blood, and like the GoPro shots. It's kind of like, well, you're sitting in a Guy Ritchie film. If you didn't expect that, then you didn't, look at the poster and see who was directing. However, I liked Aladdin a lot. I really did. That's because I'm like just a sucker for all things Disney and everything I grew up with.
Yeah.
So it was great to see that on screen. I liked it, although I really still believe that there could have been a better director, a better fit director for that movie. I was thinking like Rob Marshall, Kenny Ortega, someone that's done musicals, that understands a musicality as opposed to focusing on the action.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't really that. The end product, we got a little bit of action in One Jump and a little bit towards the end with Jafar's thing, but that's like, overall, there could have been so much more done with it, I think, if they had a different director.
Interesting. You were going to say something on this.
I was just going to say that I think, again, just like Wendy said, I think Guy Ritchie, when he started off, like his visual style and his directing style was amazing, and it kind of fit the tone of the movies that he was known for at that time.
Yeah.
As he started to, become more and more mainstream, and he started using the same like kind of visual style and the same slow-mo and all this stuff, it started feeling repetitive. So seeing someone like Dexter Fletcher take over this, I think it's just what the franchise needs. And it could breathe new life into this franchise where we might be able to actually see 2 or 3 more of these movies.
Yeah.
As opposed to if they let Guy Ritchie do this, where I feel like this would have been definitely the last one.
Well, this was something actually I was going to say is that it would be, if Dexter was going to do this and do it as a trilogy, that potentially could be something that he wanted to do. But I think the points about Guy Ritchie and directing Aladdin are true. I think a lot of people liked Aladdin because they liked the movie. They didn't necessarily like it because Guy Ritchie was directing. And I do wonder sometimes if, as successful as he is with the project, generally, maybe Hollywood is not right for Guy Ritchie's style, because King Arthur was a very Guy Ritchie movie on a Hollywood scale, didn't particularly work. Aladdin, a lot of the flaws were down to direction pretty much rather than anything else. So I just do wonder, as talented as Guy Ritchie is, it works for Dexter Fletcher, but it doesn't necessarily work for Guy Ritchie.
But Guy Ritchie, though, you can't use King Arthur against him, because that movie had no buzz and no hype whatsoever. We are tired of that story.
Yeah.
No one was going to see that movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you had Quentin Tarantino, Tim Burton. It doesn't matter who was attached to direct that movie. No one would have saw it because it just looked terrible. And everyone is like, why do we need another one?
Yeah.
So
I remember actually at Comic-Con that year when they did a Kong Skull Island, they did a Fantastic Beasts, and they did King Arthur that year. And it's funny because all the people came into the room, we all sat and talked to them, we all did our questions. And everybody kind of, even the lead actor was kind of like knew that he was very much the third billing out of that, and it was like, hey, you get 3 for the price of 2. You get to King Arthur, and it's kind of like, it right from the get-go, that just didn't have the buzz.
Yeah.
Was that a mistake for Guy to take that then, do you think?
I don't think it's a mistake for any directors to want to take on anything.
No,
I think it's always great to try different genres, telling different stories, because otherwise, how will you become a better director, right? If you just stick to the exact same thing. So I appreciate. I mean, look, I watched the movie on the plane. I really didn't think it was as awful as I thought it was going to be. There were some shots that I was like, "Hey, the music is real good." I was like, "Oh, okay, I could like listen to this in the gym and get pumped," But I think it's kind of like what you guys have already touched on, is that it is a story that we've seen before already. So it's, even with the cast and the director, with such names and popularity, it still didn't really get butts in seats.
At least it wasn't Robin Hood.
Didn't see that.
That's another reason, another movie that no one wanted to see.
No.
Guy Ritchie too?
I'm going to read some stuff that we're having in the
so.
chat on this in just a second, but something you touched on very early on, Wendy, was actually your feelings on Robert Downey Jr. coming back. You say you weren't surprised. I'll lead into this and say that I was actually quite surprised, because he's done a couple of characters who are fictional characters. He did Iron Man, obviously, for a long time. He did 2 Sherlock movies. He's doing Dr. Dolittle is his next one. I kind of expected that he might want to move on and do something else. I like him as Sherlock Holmes, but I did think it's another big Hollywood movie where he's playing a fictional, character from literature.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's different than, Iron Man, because Iron Man, it's not you just sign up from the Favreau days and you just sign up for one and then you're done. He's only done 2 as Sherlock as of right now. So I think for him, the story, and if he maybe is a fan of the books and all the stories, so he's like, yeah, I want to tell it and I want to get a chance to tell this story now, and especially what we saw with the Game of Shadows, right?
Yeah.
And how that ended. It's kind of like, well, if you know the stories, if you're familiar with anything Sherlock, you kind of can, think what is going to come next. And I think he's probably excited to tell that. Whereas Iron Man, it's like I said, it's not just one movie and done. It's kind of like this one, you're going to appear in this one, and then you have the ensemble movies, and then you have to do all this and that. So that's kind of been like 10 years of his life doing that, where Sherlock,
Kind of
I think
it's different beast.
a different beast, even though there are some similarities with Tony Stark and Sherlock.
Great. We're going to talk about really good points there, actually. Thank you so much for that. Some chat on this. We should be very honoured because Eon001, I paused Killing Eve on iPlayer to join the chat. So we are ranking just above Killing Eve, which is great, so thank you. Film nerd Jamie saying...
I love Killing Eve, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? So I'm
love it.
especially on it. Film nerd Jamie, if Downey wanted to do a third Sherlock, it would have happened ages ago. Feels like something for him to do before his inevitable return to the MCU. Interesting. Eon001, I remember Dexter Fletcher as an actor on Press Gang, old school UK show. I remember him well from that. And also a great movie called The Rachel Papers. Which he did, which was an indie movie in the UK with Ione Skye back in the 90s. Really good. Jonathan Peck saying, funny enough, Dexter Fletcher was Soap in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, a Guy Ritchie film. Absolutely. It's Guy, and there's also the producer who now went on to do Marv Films, was worked with a number of times, was a producer on Rocket Man. They've all worked together a number of times. They've got a really good sort of relationship thing going on. Zeno Hour, I like the first movie. Game of Shadows was boring. I'm okay with getting new blood in there. Jack Dennis, I actually prefer the second Sherlock Holmes.
Oh.
Jack Dennis there. Interesting and certainly controversial opinion. Yeah. Film nerd Jamie, the first Sherlock was great. The sequel was quite the opposite. I also think that they were waiting for Ritchie to make up his mind, and now that Aladdin is going to do 1 billion, he didn't need to fall back on it. Do you know what? I think actually that's quite an interesting point.
That is an interesting
I
point.
hadn't actually thought of that one, so that is a really good point there from Film Nerd Jamie. Thank you so much. A lot of you having a good chat in this, really appreciating it. Simon equals the next Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I definitely do not have the legs or the ass for that, but I appreciate the compliment. Jack Dennis, we'll move on from this in just a second. It just seemed like Disney was doing a copy and paste from The Jungle Book to Lion King with no real creative reason to make The Lion King other than they can. We're going to talk about The Lion King later in the show. Thank you for your thoughts on Sherlock Holmes. Okay, yeah, we're going to share our thoughts on that movie because the reviews are now out. So we've covered off Rocket Man. Another big story that broke the other day, actually, when I was on Collider Movie Talk. This was coming in literally as we were going into the studio.
Oh, really?
The report about Millie Bobby Brown going to star in Marvel's The Eternals movie.
Yes.
That was basically, I think it was in a piece in Variety or The Hollywood Reporter.
Yes.
And Perry literally, Dorian threw it over and said, have you seen this little bit? And this was the first time that they kind of put it in as her name as part of the cast, so that was kind of the lead on the show that day. Millie Bobby Brown to star in Marvel's The Eternals movie. That cast is already building up quite interesting. Angelina Jolie, Kumail Nanjiani, a few other people as well, and now Millie Bobby Brown. Here's my question. This is something that we touched on Collider the other day. Do you think that if she plays a, let's use the phrase, celestial being in this, it's a little bit too close to what we know her from most successfully in Stranger Things? Scott, I'm going to go to you on this one.
Absolutely. I'm also worried, I just have to throw this out there, with Godzilla not performing as well as they hoped, and her pretty much only having Stranger Things under her belt as her big success, I'm a little worried about them kind of pumping her into all these big budget movies, because I don't think she has shown yet that she's capable of doing this. That's a concern.
Yeah.
My second concern about this movie is Kumail, because I love him, but man, Hollywood right now, he's going on the Tiffany Haddish bandwagon really quickly.
Yeah.
He's like he's in everything. You know, yes, he was the greatest thing about Stuber. Yes, he was the greatest thing about Men in Black International. But like, I'm really worried about them. Keep Keep putting him in things.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't feel like he can do it. Don't get me wrong.
He's very capable.
And it's neither for Millie Bobby Brown. It's just that it's a little bit too much too soon for these big projects. That's just my take on it.
Your thoughts on this?
I really like her a lot. I don't know enough about the Eternals, but I will say I do see some parallels between Eleven and whatever character she may be playing in this one.
There are a number of young female characters in this that we discussed this. There's Sprite and there's, I think, Cersei is one of them.
Well, Cersei, I think that's going to be Angelina Jolie.
Okay.
I think from
think
the
so, too.
little bit that I know, she's like supposed to be like the main protagonist.
Right.
But regardless of the box office and results for Godzilla, I thought Millie Bobby Brown was fine. And the movie isn't centered around her. If you went to the movie to see Millie Bobby Brown and not Godzilla, then maybe that's why you came out not being happy with the story, because she is just a part of that story to kind of help move the story forward. So I look forward to it. I think she has a lot of capability and a lot of flexibility as an actress. I think she can do a lot of things, and I would love to see if this is just another one to kind of propel her forward, even if it's in a similar role, because they know this is something she can do in a major movie blockbuster setting, then fine. And then this will hopefully open doors for her to do different types of characters, and that's how it works sometimes with younger talent. And also, she's going to get butts in seats. Everybody loves her as 11. She's going to get the younger audience in the seats.
That is true, and obviously, because she is young and she does have that audience, knowing what we know from Marvel so far, if they are looking at having this as perhaps a returning ensemble piece, ensemble characters turning up in other phases, you've got 10 or 15 years as she starts to grow up and the character grows up, so you've got that. What I would like to see her do, though, is something that is different and dramatic, that actually we get to see her flexing her muscles, that puts her a bit more center stage. She's doing a lot of ensemble stuff.
Yes.
And I really rate her, and I'm really excited to see what she does in the next couple of years. But we've really yet to see her stand on her own. And I think for longevity, we know she works in an ensemble and can really do a standout role. I think for any real longevity, she needs to be able to stand alone out there in the market and be the reason that people see movies. Rather than going, we like her, she's in this. They're waiting for the next Millie Bobby Brown. Like we've seen with a number of other people. Jennifer Lawrence, you become your own brand, you become your standalone thing. You sell a movie.
And I'm just going to say that, like, part of my fear, as we've seen with the X-Men franchise, for example, they started off strong, this new generation of X-Men, and then they have all these actors where they just feel completely wasted and underutilized. And when you have a lot of power players in a movie, my concern is, are they going to get equal screen time? Are they going to have their moments to shine? Which we know that they had plenty of movies where that does happen, but I think there's even more examples where that doesn't happen.
Increasingly so. I don't know whether that is just because they're overcrowded, and I think there are a lot of these movies that are overcrowded and characters are underutilized, or people are just not particularly good at generally writing strong pieces for everybody in an ensemble.
But you say that, but then you look at Avengers that has 50 million characters in it, and they all get their own spotlights, and it doesn't feel crowded.
But that was earned
most of the time.
But that was built up. That was built up and earned. And most of those people got standalone movies, and then if they didn't get standalone movies, there was one character that was introduced in one of the other people's standalone movies. So there was very few characters ever in those movies that were just thrown into this big world. They were all kind of built somewhat along the way.
Minus Black. I agree with you, except for Black Panther, because we had not.
That's right.
We just saw like a little hint of here's Wakanda.
Right.
And then for the comic book fans who knew Black Panther, they're like, yes. And the way that the Russo brothers introduced him in it, and they didn't put up this whole thing. It's just kind of like he was in it. It felt natural and didn't feel like it was shoehorned in. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to see in ensemble movies, where it's kind of like, we have this name, therefore we must give he or she this grand entrance, and then it doesn't feel natural anymore.
But when you talk about a lot of these characters, and you feel that some of them aren't underserved, there are a couple of Marvel movies where I do feel some of them have been underserved. I think Black Widow and Hawkeye are characters that are continually underserved, and I do feel that in Infinity War, that was a movie, especially with the Black Panther guys, who really proved to be all great characters in that movie. Especially the women were
the
so
Dora Milaje.
underserved. Yeah.
In Endgame?
Yeah, they were like just, and also to an extent in Infinity War, it's almost like they were present but didn't really have a lot to do. And they're such great characters.
They are.
That people really took to very early on. And, you know, so I think it's always difficult. It's always difficult. I have to just point out, and people are pointing this out in the chat, that Millie Bobby Brown actually has denied the rumour. She did an Instagram live to say that's not true, that she's been cast in it. But, as we know in Hollywood, sometimes people say they're not connected to things and they are. So, you know, we'll see exactly how that turns out.
They're just waiting for that Comic-Con reveal.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is...
we need to have something down there. Come on, guys.
Well, that was kind of it.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan saying, I'm not worried about Millie because I trust Kevin Feige and the people at Marvel. A lot of people do, and that's all you can basically do is put your trust in those guys because even though they don't always get it right, they do know what they're doing.
Right.
They hit more than they miss.
Yes.
Eon001, my first concern is that the Eternals themselves. I'm a Marvel Comics fan, but they're scraping the bottom of the barrel with property. Should have done a Nova movie. Jack Dennis. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Nova, yeah, potentially. Of what I know of Nova, yeah. Jack Dennis saying Marvel is a guaranteed win for any actor that signs on at this point. I think that's mostly true. I actually had a conversation last year with Peyton Reed after Ant-Man and the Wasp, and he says that at some point one of the Marvel movies is going to fail. And he said it happens to every franchise, it happens to every director. And fail in a Marvel movie term is not fail as in nobody sees it, but you've got to be somebody's got to be the bottom Marvel movie as much as somebody's got to be the top one.
The bar has been set so high. We've all now are used to a certain standard when you walk into a Marvel movie, whether it's ensemble or solo, that when you see one that's not as like spectacular as far as like the action scenes or something like that.
Spider-Man Far From Home.
But that's Sony.
I know, but it's still part of them.
I guess. I loved it.
I know you did. Wendy.
I loved it.
I have to just throw in my anger towards.
I did hear that. I did. You need to let it go. Let it go.
Never.
No.
Couple more comments on this in the chat. Kame Egan saying Millie Bobby Brown is following the MCU with throwing off the audience. I think she's definitely going to be cast in the Eternals. Jack Dennis, how many actors her age that hit it big retain the momentum? Will she be just as popular 10 years from now? Probably not, but that's fine, which is why I think we really need to see her standing on her own and doing something that is dramatic, that doesn't revolve around being a young woman. Because you can be a young female actor and you can still do stuff that completely it isn't about that. It transcends that. And she's kind of doing the young thing at the moment, and we'll see. I'm very interested to see what she does in the next couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
oh my God.
That's terrible. That's 24. Okay, guys. Thanks,
Absolutely,
Jeff. Thanks
Jeff.
for that.
Oh my God.
Eon001. Even Pixar had a bomb. Anyone watch The Good Dinosaur? Ouch! Too soon. Okay, we need to move on to Mulan trailer this week. That finally came out. A lot of talk around that movie. I have to say, it's one of the Disney live-action movies that Mulan is not one of my favorite Disney animated movies.
I'm sorry, I can't be on the show.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. It's certainly not. It's certainly far from the bottom, but it's not one of the ones I was like, I'd really love to see a live-action version. I'm genuinely interested in this. This feels like one of the first ones where they've tried something that is quite different to bring it to life. Who wants to talk about this first of all? Wendy?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, you're obviously a big fan of Mulan.
I am a huge fan of Mulan because it is a story that I grew up with.
Right.
For a long time. So I remember when the animated came out, I was like, what? Someone that looks like me that's going to be on the screen? I have to go see this. And I swear I saw it so many times in theaters. And I still, till this day, know all the songs backwards and forwards. So when they first announced that they were doing a live action Mulan, I was like, yes! But wait, is it going to be Ming-Na? That was like my first thing. I was like, she's the voice, and can we get Lea Salonga come back and sing Reflection? And then they said, songs aren't likely to be in this movie. And I'm like, whoa. Then why are we remaking it, right? Yeah. So I had and then like Mushu's not in it, and Shang Li is not in it, and they're changing this. And I was like, all right, I don't know. I don't know, because I really did like the original. And then they dropped the trailer, and I was like, okay, Disney, I see you doing something different. And From what I know from just again reading articles and things like that online, they are basing this after the original poem, the Ballad of Mulan. And they're kind of separating it from the live action. They're doing it. There's still going to be a little bit of fantastical elements to it, but there's no mushu and there's no singing. And after seeing this teaser trailer, it makes sense with the no singing. I think if they're trying to do like a serious portrayal of Mulan going to war and saving China and going, entering the army as her father, then like breaking out in song may not work.
So how do you want those songs to factor then? Do you want them to be audio beats in the movie? Because it would be strange if they're not present at all. Would you like to hear like an audio representation or something in a situation?
Like in the form of a score.
Yes.
In the background, yes. Okay, so I watched that trailer like 20 times already. You can hear the music of reflection and that got me like that. Like it just like brought me back, and it was young Wendy again, big-eyed, and I was like, oh my God. And I cried doing the trailer reaction on my channel. And I think that may be the best way to go. So if they're training, instead of like having somebody singing "Let's Get Down," and also if you don't get like Donnie back to sing that song, then like don't put the song in. But I think the score with the beats, with a slightly updated music to it, would really work well.
Okay.
It's in the beats.
So it's kind of a background infusion rather than I'm totally avoiding shoehorning them in.
Right.
I think that's the right way to do it.
But I think people are going to expect it too. When we get to that camp scene and you don't hear the bum ba bum like with the drums, then I think people are going to be expecting it, and I feel like it probably will be. I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing. Who knows?
But you'd definitely like to see that.
I would love it.
It's really interesting to hear your personal journey with Mulan. And there's a lot of people who, generally Caucasian, who assume that when people see representation of themselves on screen, they will accept it in any form or reject it in any form. And it's really interesting to hear the kind of the logic journey that you've gone through of what you would like to see, what you're getting, and then contextualizing it and kind of saying, yes, this is altogether, out of everything I've got, this is exactly what I would like to see in this version. Because there's always a massive assumption, there's often a massive assumption that people will do one or the other, that it's appropriation or it's rejection or it's I will accept this or I will not. And it's really interesting to hear someone explain their journey like that. So thank you. It's really interesting to open our eyes to things like that, and it's a really important part of the dialogue. Scott, your thoughts on this?
How can I top
Wendy said it all. Great, amazing.
Yeah, how can I top that? I mean, honestly, I think the way that Wendy analyzed this film is the way that we should, as fans, be analyzing a lot of these movies. And, you have to, believe in the filmmakers, believe in the storyteller, and honestly, sometimes believe in the studio. That they are going in the right direction.
It's interesting you say believe in the studio, because there is a lot at the moment of almost Disney hate, where there's a lot of stuff when Disney does something, people are going to hate on it instantly. So it's really interesting to have that faith. Sorry, Karen.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, my take on this whole Mulan thing is that the trailer does look great, and it looks completely unlike the Mulan movie that I remember. Now, that being said, just like you, and again, cultural significance, this is the importance of representation in cinema, is that you and I did not have the same connection to this movie.
True.
So me growing up, it again was one of the lesser ones. So I look at movies like Beauty and the Beast, I look at Aladdin, I look at Lion King, and then I kind of skip over and I go to Hercules. I don't really care that much about Pocahontas or something. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah,
I'm just being honest.
But a lot of people didn't see Hercules.
Yeah, no one, yes. Or Emperor's New Groove, which I also
great
love.
movie.
Yeah, so good.
So the thing is, knowing this, I feel like they were able to take a little bit more liberty with this movie because they knew that it didn't have that same level of appeal that something like Lion King or Aladdin had.
Yeah.
And therefore, to her point, going back to the original source material, the poem that it's based off of, they can look at, okay, here's a whole new direction. We know that we overdo it with sidekicks in our movies, so maybe we'll get rid of the sidekick in this one. Everything we do lately has been musical related. Maybe we take that element out of it. So, I mean, her perspective is probably one of the best perspectives that I've heard about this movie,
thanks.
but it also ties into, I think, the marketing ideas at Disney, too, where I think they realize that this is a property that, yes, people like Wendy really love, and they don't want to upset people like Wendy, but at the same time, how are they going to make this more appealing to a mass audience?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the way they can do it.
No,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. There's a lot of chat on this in the chat as well. Okay, thought experiment. Should Disney try to focus on their less popular animated movies like Treasure Planet? I think a live-action Treasure Planet movie would be bananas. Do you know, I think actually it's quite interesting that point is raised, because while Mulan was certainly a very, very popular movie, I wouldn't consider it to be their top tier when it comes to famous Disney content. But there is a lot of stuff. Hercules,
Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
New Groove, some really good examples. Treasure Planet, great example of movies that I think would be rather innovative, and they could do that. I don't think they'll get there yet. I think they want to go for the big ones first of all, and I think if we start to see more development on the Disney Plus platform, there's nothing to say that they can't do two-tier live-action movies where they start doing tier 2 ones for Disney Plus. Stuff like Treasure Island, Hercules, etc., that become TV events, rather than necessarily putting everything theatrical. Because Disney already, and obviously now with Fox as well, they've already got a very full slate, and there is a lot of criticism of box office dominance.
Yes.
And if they want to get around that and still push out that content with those familiar brands and tropes, they can do that on Disney Plus now.
Can I just say one
Yeah,
thing?
go for it.
The one thing that we also forget about that time in Disney's history is that when you had, I mean, it started with Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, then it went to Aladdin, and then it went to Lion King.
Yeah.
And then something happened in the middle there, which a lot of people seem to forget, is Toy Story,
Yep.
which changed the landscape of animation. And then,
Entirely.
unfortunately, movies like Mulan and Pocahontas, Emperor's New Groove, and Hercules all suffered not because they weren't good,
Yeah.
but because people were so infatuated with this new breed of animation that they kind of like, you remember, that was right, like Treasure
remember it
Planet,
well.
I think was the last like hand-drawn movie, right, for
Yep.
Disney, or one of the last ones.
Princess and the Frog.
Was there
That's a
Atlantis?
Princess- yeah.
Oh, Princess and the
Princess
Frog.
and the
Princess and the
Frog
Frog.
is the latest one, but Treasure Island definitely did not get much
Oh
love.
no, that bombed so
And
hard.
I don't know why. I really liked it.
yeah.
A lot of people spoke very, very highly of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember at the time.
People
Yeah.
should revisit it.
Yeah. No, but I think in a certain extent they kind of shot themselves in the foot, because they went, oh, we're going to elevate everything, now we're going to go back to what we're doing. And people were like, no, we
Yeah.
want more of the elevated art.
Yes.
Give us more elevated art. Other chat in here. Let's say, this is Kame Egan saying, I agree with Wendy that there should be just a score of the original instead of a musical. Absolutely right. It's a really nice way to do some of this. Now, with these Disney movies, you're never going to please everybody. You know, with even we saw this with Lion King, the reactions this week. Some people wanted shot for shot. Some people wanted something completely new. Someone wanted something else, and blah, blah. So with these things, you're never going to please everybody. But I think sometimes you've just got to go, what is right for this piece? What can we do with it? Dumbo, we saw a very different interpretation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very different interpretation. Goldman Vision saying, have the music didactic if you need the music, as I have, as in have musicians and singers within the story sing it to a crowd in the background. That could work as
Yeah,
well,
that could
actually.
work.
That could be very interesting. Jenna James, I had not seen this comment, but I'm reading it now. Or a TV series of Treasure Planet and Atlantis on Disney Plus or Hulu. Both really
Sign
good
me
ideas
up.
there.
Yeah.
Really, I like that. Eon001, would it be too soon for a live-action Disney Tarzan movie? Oh, Eon001, I really don't think we're going to see a Disney Tarzan movie anytime soon.
No.
Especially after the way that the last Tarzan movie that we had 3 years ago now,
Yeah.
performed at the box office. Tarzan is one of those characters.
It's a King Arthur, Robin
King
Hood.
Arthur, Robin Hood.
Yeah.
It's just, it does not, everybody goes, seems like a great idea, box office open, and it's like tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
Jenna James, after Disney runs out of animated to live action films, could we see them tap to their animated TV series to do live action, like Lloyd in Space, Fillmore, The Weekenders, Recess, Pepper Ann? I would be very surprised if we see any of that. But I tell you what, you know, I'd love to see, you know, Chip and Dale. And I know they're
Rescue
doing a Chip and
Rangers?
Dale movie, but, you know, or something else, or Tailspin, or something like that.
yeah.
They need a new
Darkwing
Goofy
Duck.
movie. A new Goofy movie, yeah. They need, because that is like a classic that was so underloved.
Yeah.
Also, if Disney Plus doesn't give me like a whole new series of gargoyles, I'm gonna
Gargoyles! Great!
God, I love gargoyles
That would make
so
a
much.
great live-action movie, actually. And
think?
I think that
Directed
would be
by Jordan
great.
Peele? No, I'm just kidding.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Gargoyles, I would be really interesting to see them turn that into something, more live action and, as a show. I would be very interested to see that. Maybe do it a bit darker. Maybe this is the kind of thing that Disney Plus can allow them to do. Okay, let's move on from this, guys. Everybody, thank you for your comments and thank you for the comments in the chat. We're getting some really great stuff today. Thank you so much. A couple of things I want to touch on. Unsettling viral hoax Momo is getting a movie from the Grudge producer. And also some of the guys involved in it for this. Now, obviously, Momo, for those of you that don't know, it was kind of an internet hoax thing this year where apparently Momo, this character, was appearing in videos and asking children and people who watch the videos to do terrible things to themselves or others. But the character Momo was based on I think it was a Japanese piece of art. Yeah, like a bird person. And there's a story of this bird person being like a child catcher, which is apparently where they're going to base the idea for this movie. I did not like generally, apart from the first Ring movie, I didn't like, and the first Grudge American remake was okay, but everything else that came after that was really lackluster, and Rings was terrible. Oh, yeah. Would they, with this, be better to set it in Japan than in America? And they're not going to do it as an internet thing. I think that would be the only way to make this in any way more interesting. Do you guys both agree on that?
I don't want to see another internet. Like
No.
I don't need. We've been there. We've done that. It's. I think if you're gonna base it on that Japanese tale, then you should really stick with the source and film it in Japan, or at least start it in Japan. And then if we want to travel her to another country, then fine. But. Yeah, the internet thing, it's like, I'm so tired of it. And it's just like more like Skype to Skype or Facebook, whatever. And we've seen certain movies do that really well, like searching. But like this is just going to look like, I don't know, not as good.
Well, Dark Web and Dark Web Unfriended, which were both Blumhouse movies, they really didn't succeed in what they intended to do. Gallows was another movie that was, had a lot of sort of, internet-based stuff in it. And that didn't work particularly well. Scott, your thoughts on this?
I'm excited. This is the weirdest thing. I never thought I would say that an internet hoax would actually make for a good movie. But this creature, whatever it is, I'll be honest, it's creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
Sorry, like it is really creepy.
It is. Yeah.
The company I used to work for, the people in the kitchen love scaring the other members of the kitchen. And what they did was they actually printed out pictures of this character and posted all around the kitchen at different places. So you would go in the bathroom and in the mirror, the picture would be there. And it like always would creep me out just being in there. Yeah. So, that's what I think would work. Because it's almost like Frank from Donnie Darko. It has that creepy vibe where you're kind of like, okay, I would like a backstory to this character, but I'm worried because what's going to happen is if they do it and it's successful, it's going to turn into a freaking franchise and then they're going to beat it to death.
Yeah.
And then you could have Momo.
Nah.
You can have Momo, then Momo, played by Jason Momoa, with a theme song by Alanis Momo set.
Yeah, Bride of Momo.
Bride of Momo.
Yeah.
Momo 2.
Yeah.
Mo Money, Momo, the Damon Wayans spin-off. Xeno Hour, Momo pitch. A group of kids travel to Japan to stage an elaborate Momo prank, only for the prank to become real. It's the Book of Shadows, but actually good. Sorry, Scott. Scott is a big fan of
This is funny. This has like been an ongoing joke now for like the last couple of weeks. It's great.
Yeah.
I like Book of the Shadows.
Janet James saying Momo looks like an anime demon. E01, going back to Gargoyles. Gargoyles is an amazing binge watch. Yes, absolutely. Xeno Hour, Momo gets no swipe right.
No.
Sorry,
that's
Momo.
a dating app thing. Oh, Momo's got to get laid. Done. Jenna James saying, done with those internet type films too. I'm curious about this. I think if they do this as a movie, because it is such a controversial thing,
yes,
I think they have to embrace that and go hard with this and really make it a hard R, slightly fucked up kind of, it level of like intensity, really embrace that, rather than trying to do, and this is something, again, we spoke about on Collider this week, rather than go like sort of, the Bye-Bye Man or Slender Man or something like that, where it's a controversial figure, there's a lot of stuff around it, but you don't really go deep, you just kind of do it a disservice, really.
I want an independent type vibe to this movie.
Maybe that's the way to do it.
I'm thinking of, and I know this is just the obvious choice, but like Jennifer Kent to do something like this.
Yeah.
Just something that's a slow burn horror that really just builds the creepiness.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a lot of special effects. It doesn't need any of that. It doesn't need a big cast.
Yeah.
Just go by the concept.
Yeah. I would definitely go without the big cast.
Yeah.
I would definitely go without that.
It works better that way, I think, because then the attention is on the story itself than you want, seeing your favorite actor.
I regularly say one of the things that worked with it is, even though some of the characters, you'd seen in other movies, you didn't have that attachment with them. You didn't get distracted by star value. I think that was really good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on from this and talk about a couple of other stories very quickly this week. Dwayne Johnson's Red Notice moved from Universal to Netflix as Ryan Reynolds joined the cast. Now, Dwayne Johnson this week was pitching this as kind of the first blockbuster international global launch movie event for Netflix, which I would have said that probably it didn't work, but Bright or Cloverfield Paradox were really the first attempts at that.
Yeah.
But it's very, very interesting to see someone like Dwayne Johnson getting involved in a Netflix movie. I was more surprised by that than anything, because he's such a power at the box office, even though Skyscraper, about this time last year, didn't do what it should have done, still amazes me to this day. I was very interested to see him getting involved in a Netflix movie. Do you guys have any thoughts on this?
This just seems like a sure bet, which is kind of surprising to me, because you have him, you have Ryan Reynolds, and it's Gal Gadot, right?
Yep.
Like, you have those three who I don't think any of them have not been hotter than they are right now.
Yeah.
So it seems like an odd choice, but I also think it's that, what you said about Skyscraper, I think Universal has a little bit of wet feet. They're a little nervous about it because they saw that movie not do well. And they're...
How did that do overseas? Sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
It did okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think they're so, Universal very much right now is banking on the franchises. Like Hobbs and Shaw, is going to be probably one of the biggest movies of the summer.
Yeah.
That's not saying much considering this summer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they know what they're doing. And I think, I don't know, this is the big problem that I have right now with movies, is that you have something like this, and I think the budget is what scares people away. You have that price tag on it, and it's not a sure bet. If this price tag was like 60, 75, this wouldn't be a story right now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It'll be interesting to see how Netflix, when you talk about budget and making money back, it'll be interesting to see how Netflix are going to quantify that, because we don't get viewing figures for that. They don't sell advertising around this. I mean, it's going to be really interesting because they're going to pay a lot of money for this movie.
And right now, which is interesting to me, I don't know if you guys have been following this, but my friend is really into the stock market, and he's been like, they're about to release their figures.
Okay.
And I mean, all the articles as of late have been very negative towards Netflix. And, all the studios pulling out stuff. We don't need to get into that, like with these TV shows. But also, they also said they're cutting back on these projects. They're not going to be taking on these big budget projects. So the water is a little rocky right now. And, this kind of news was very shocking to me, just because they were like, oh, we'll bail it out again.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't work when you did the one for Warner Brothers. What was the one that I liked? Maui. Mowgli.
Mowgli.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Being
Which was
remade as Momogli.
Yes.
Momogli.
Momogli.
Momogli, Momo in the jungle. Now, when
Andy Serkis as Momo.
Oh my God, I could see it.
Wendy, you were going to say something about this before I started doing impressions of Momo on vacation.
I love it. Little suitcase.
National Lampoon's Momo Vacation.
And then like little...
Someone said Momo Mia. I'm
Momo-
on
There
board
you
for
go.
that.
I am
the
so.
musical.
Momo
Yes,
Mia, here we
yes.
go again.
Yeah.
Here we
Done.
mow again. There we go.
Done. Oh
Sorry,
my
Wendy.
god! Because next week's episode, it's
Yeah,
just
totally
all the Momo puns.
Mo money.
I am actually kind of surprised that it's not going to be a feature film.
Yeah.
As in the sense of like being released by a major studio in movie theaters because of the cast.
Yes.
It's not just because Dwayne Johnson is attached to it, should be in the movie theaters. I think he's such a workaholic, and he's been in so many movies. He's produced, like, what was it, the Fighting With My Family movie, and that did really well. And I think he's just the guy that's just like, I like work, I really enjoy what I do, and he knows he's hot right now.
Yeah.
And that streak's going to continue, so why not go then do something different, if it's Netflix, if it's movies, whatever it may be. But I am kind of surprised with like Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot. Like, why not put this? This is definitely gonna sell tickets. But I am fine with like a Netflix thing too, because I think Netflix needs to raise its bars because we have Disney Plus coming, HBO Max, and whatever other streaming things that I may not even know about right now.
Yeah.
So they kind of need to, but they're on the top right now because none of those other things have come out yet, especially Disney. So they kind of want to be like,
And what is out there can't touch them.
right.
Wow.
So if they keep raising the bar, other people are going to have to continuously raise the bar. So I welcome this, and also anything Dwayne Johnson does, I'm there for.
Interesting comments on this. Film nerd Jamie, love Johnson, but he's overexposing himself. There's nothing worse than an overexposed Johnson. He needs to pump the brakes, which is what he calls his Johnson. Zeno Hour saying, Simon, you know what? I'm still not a fan of his work, but Ari Aster doing the Momo movie may get my butt in the theatre day one. Interesting. Film nerd Jamie saying, have a feeling that Hobbs and Shaw will underperform against expectations. I would be very surprised if that happens. That seriously, I think, it's one of the few movies this summer that's going to give Disney a run for its money.
People who don't even like the Fast and the Furious franchise,
going to see
including
this.
my wife,
Yeah.
have said they want to see that
And
movie.
for lots
Cannot
of
wait.
different reasons.
Yeah.
It's Dwayne, it's Jason, it's Idris, it's
Idris.
Idris.
Put him in everything.
Yes.
Seriously, he would do that. Jenna James, so has Amy Pascal taken over already in any job at Universal? It's interesting to see what's going on with them. Film nerd Jamie, Netflix's insane spending is why they will implode, not because of rival streaming services. I think they certainly have to be careful with what they're buying into right now. And Zeno Hour, the real reasons why original ideas struggle in Hollywood: high budgets and not enough people to go see them in the theatre. Yes, I think some of it is high budgets, although we're seeing that middle disappear. We discussed that on the show previously, and it's low or high these days. But yeah, really getting asses in theatre is a bit of a problem. A couple of other stories I want to touch on before we go to box office and reviews. Story this week: Look Who's Talking, a reboot in the works for some reason. I just hope they bring Bruce Willis back as the Jizz. One of his best acting roles. Bruce Willis as Seaman. I actually loved Look Who's Talking. I remember when that was like a big thing at the movie theatre. And I saw that movie a number of times. They very quickly got worse. And then they went to the one with
Look
the
who's
dogs.
talking now.
Yeah. So, I mean, fine. But, I mean, I don't know if today's audiences want that.
No.
I'm
Pass.
not
It's a pass-
oversold
it's
on
a
that.
pass for me.
Hard pass.
Very sadly lost Rip Torn this week. He was 88, known for many things, including the Larry Sanders Show, Men in Black, and you'd be seriously, if you look at his resume on IMDb, popped up in so many things. Memorable performances for Rip Torn for you guys? Was there any one particular one that stood
Freddie
out?
got fingered.
Oh,
I know.
you took
Daddy,
mine.
would you like some sausage?
Yeah.
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Tremendous movie.
I mean, obviously, Men in Black for me,
Right.
because I'm
Yeah.
younger, so it's like, whoa. And then from that, you kind of go backwards for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like, what else has this guy been in? Oh, everything. Okay, let's just watch it all.
Yeah. No, he's a great actor, and he was a really nice character actor over the years. He always brought something good. But now you've mentioned Freddie got fingered. Now I've got the backwoods man. Let me go back as fast as I can. Whenever Tom Green, I've seen him do stand up in LA quite a lot over the last couple of years, and seriously, he always gets people talking about Freddie got fingered.
Yeah.
That movie did so badly, but it's got so much love over the years. Samuel L. Jackson cast as Chris Rock's dad this week in the Saw reboot.
Saw as in the
The horror
movie
movies.
Saw?
Yeah. Chris Rock has reimagined them, and
I don't know about that.
I don't know. I mean, I love Sam Jackson, but it would be nice not to see Sam Jackson for a while.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I don't think I could say that because I just enjoy everything he's in. But the Saw reboot is the part I'm having a problem with. I like the first one.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I don't know why we already need a reboot. Already.
Yeah.
Because
the-
we can, Wendy.
well, I mean,
Because we
to
can.
be honest with you, the last one was so underwhelming and so average. It was a real
Is
disappointment.
that the one with they're kind of trying to? It's like a group of people and they're all trying to get out of their own traps, but they're all in the same room.
kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Escape Room. No, I'm just kidding.
It was just really underwhelming. It was
No.
such a shame. The ending it just wasn't intense, and it just
No.
didn't bring anything new. It was a real disappointment, even though Jigsaw was back for that one. And finally, San Diego Comic Con kicks off this week. I'm heading over there on Tuesday. If you see me walking around San Diego looking tired and probably crying, do say hello and give me a pat on the back and tell me that everything is all right. That'll be absolutely fine. It's going to be staying in San Diego till 2024. Just did a new deal this week. I'm not surprised by that at all. This year is a very interesting year for Comic-Con. I'm looking forward to discussing it when I get back. But where else would you have this?
Las Vegas.
Well, it would have to be Vegas because you can't have it. There's nowhere in LA where you can have things like the activations with enough space, not even downtown.
Yeah.
You know, it would really have to be...
I would not want it in LA, I'm sorry. Like,
No.
I feel for the San Diego locals when, like, all of us descend upon their city.
Yeah.
And they have these, like, preset menus, and I get it. People complain about it, and the price goes up, and I was like, but look at how many people they have to serve and all the crowd walking through. Like, you have to understand where
Yeah.
they're coming from. But, like, in that same note, I don't want it in LA.
Yeah.
But I think Vegas is a great place for it. I just don't think San Diego, because the crowd has grown.
yeah.
The popularity of San Diego Comic-Con, it's very different from what Comic-Con used to be.
Yeah.
I remember, I think, like, my last favorite, like, my most great experience at Comic-Con was actually 2015.
Interesting.
That was the last one. I was like, yes!
Yeah.
It was amazing. But I go because I'm a fan. I just, like, I would have wished for, more hotels and things like that, and they just haven't supplied that, so... The cost keeps going up, and we keep going back.
Yeah, this is my 4th year of doing Comic-Con, and I think certainly in doing it in the capacity that I'm doing it now, I think will be my last year.
Yeah.
I'm done with Comic-Con now. It's great, but it's not any something that I really look forward to anymore.
I
So I'm
think they
gonna
can do
leave it with
this in Austin, actually.
that. Good idea. actually.
Because, South by Southwest is such a big thing. Again, locals hate
Yeah.
it. They clear out. They're like, get the hell out of my town.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Austin has become home to so many of these big things. I mean, they have Fantastic Fest there. They have South by Southwest, which, spans not only film, but interactive and music. I can really see Comic-Con going there.
Yeah.
Because South by Southwest is pretty much like a version of that in a weird way.
Also, ATX, the Austin TV Film Festival.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes,
right.
yes,
They had their
yes.
6th year this year, and it's grown exponentially every year. And that
And-
ecosystem's actually really well supported in that city. So I thought the same thing, Scott.
Yeah.
And also the food is, like,
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Comic-Con, is... what was I going to say? I completely forgot. Doesn't matter. Wasn't important. No, it's fine. I absolutely, I agree with what you guys are saying 100%. But I'm just going to say, actually, the TV Festival Association is actually a really good idea because this year is so much more about TV. 2 years ago, I said to people it was going this way, and they literally told me I was fucking mental. And 2 years later, we are at peak TV.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This year.
I think the only
It's
film this
crazy.
year is Terminator. And I mean, it's
Yeah.
doing something special on
I mean,
Wednesday, but
Marvel are going to be there on Saturday.
Yeah.
But really, the only other one, you're right, is Terminator. It's very TV heavy this year. Even the activations are mostly TV ones. Seriously, it's crazy. Okay, let's move on to box office. And we do want to do a couple of quick reviews as well. Crawl is out this week. 1 million in previews last night, which is not too bad. According to Box Office Mojo, we are looking at Spider-Man Far From Home being top, followed by Toy Story 4. Third place, Crawl with 12.5 million. Stuber in 4th place, 7.5. Yesterday in 5th, followed by Aladdin, Annabelle Comes Home, Midsummer, The Secret Life of Pets 2, and The Avengers Endgame. No top 10 placement, unfortunately, for The Farewell. Guys, okay, first of all, I want to talk about, we'll get to Lion King right at the very end, because the reviews are out, but it's out next week. The Farewell, Scott, you've seen this?
Yeah. You didn't see this one?
No, I keep
Okay.
missing all of
Wendy.
them. I know. It's on the list, and every time I'm like, I get like an invite, I'm like, yes, I can't go. I can't. I've been dying to see it.
It is incredible. Absolutely incredible. For those who are so concerned if Awkwafina could do anything more than comedy,
Yes, she can.
this movie will prove you 100% that she can do anything.
That is a huge relief.
Yeah, she is fantastic. I can see her potentially getting a Oscar nomination for this performance. It is that good.
Wow.
And Lulu Wang, this is only her second feature. What an incredible feat this movie is. It's a wonderful film about family, one that I think will translate into any language and to any audience. I'm so glad that A24 picked this up because I think they're going to have a very slow start this weekend, but I can see this one going into award season and becoming one of the front runners. The question now becomes, do they put it for best foreign language film because it is mostly subtitled, or do they go for another category? That's the question I have for it.
Interesting. The farewell, I'm going to try and catch in my own time. Something that I had to do last night with Crawl, because there was one press screening this week. And so I know we were having the discussion this morning. A lot of people have paid, and you did exactly the same thing last night as me, to pay and go and see it so we could talk about it on the show today. So I'm out of profit by doing this show today. This show has cost me money. It's cost all of us money, actually. Okay, so Crawl. Wendy, you go first on this.
When I saw the trailer, I was like, yeah, okay. So what I thought we were gonna get was that it was monster alligators. And I like that it was not monster alligators. They're just regular Florida alligators, which, by the way, if you ever run into one, they're scary AF. Don't just get out of there. I think you're supposed to serpentine when you run away from them. Next week, I'll be back with more alligator escaping tips. What I like a lot about these movies, and when you're there in the audience for the first showing on that Thursday night, is you're sitting in a theater full of people that are just excited as you are to see this movie. People walked in with alligator hats.
I saw you tweet that.
So like an alligator, and it's protrudes this way, and it's chomp. It's so funny, and then they walk in, they're like craw, 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 craw. I was like, oh, this is gonna be so fun.
Yeah.
So I had my curly fries, I had my chicken tenders. And I was like, yes, I'm ready. And you know what? I really liked it. It's everything that I expected it to be. It had really good jump scares. It had scary alligators, and it had moments where you kind of, because there's water, there's crawling involved, and there's swimming involved, where you kind of do the thing with the characters on the screen holding her breath, and you're like, and you try to do that, and you're like, wait, what am I doing? I'm not trying to.
Other people did that in my theater too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a fun Thursday night screening for me.
Scott.
I was lucky enough to be one of the few to get invited to that Monday screening, and it was all pretty much tied to the junket that happened the next day, which I couldn't attend because of The Lion King. This is a movie that will be questionable at the end of the year as to why Paramount did not screen this for critics, because I think we were all shocked to shit yesterday when it broke and it had 100% on Rotten Tomatoes when it first came out. And now I think it's down to a 90 or an 80, which is still ridiculously high for a movie like this. That being said, like you were saying, and I think like the trailers lead you to believe, it delivers on what it promises. It knows what it is. It doesn't try to be anything different. And it just runs with it, and you have fun. This is, I'll give credit to Nestor in our group, because he's like, come on, you had to think it was better than The Meg. And it's everything that The Meg wanted to be, but never was.
I 100% agree with that.
I agree with that. And I like The Meg for what it was. But this one, I was like, and it's funny because I think it kind of spoke to me because I am from Florida. So to see they mentioned one of the Florida colleges, University of Florida, and I was like, Gator Growl, and the hurricane. So it's you get half disaster movie, half monster movie. I was all for it.
Yeah, I mean, as you guys say, there's not really a lot that I can add to what you guys have said, but I just want to pick up on what Scott, you said that it basically delivers on what it promises, and it does, but it doesn't really bring a lot more to it.
No.
There are a couple of nice scares in there. There's a dog, there's a few things, but it really is what you see, what the trailer sells you is exactly what you get, and that is, do you know what? Absolutely fine.
Yes.
Sometimes that is all you need. You don't need more around that. You order a steak, you get a steak.
Yep.
And that's exactly what you want. It's good. I don't know if it's a 98% movie for me.
No.
It was certainly enjoyable, and there's nothing around like it right now, but I did enjoy it. But I missed the press screening because I had to see Stuber for a second time. Can I say, Jeff, before I go into Stuber, can we have an extra 5 minutes? We can cover Lion King as well. Thanks, man. So Stuber, a movie that I had to see twice due to audiences at the screening. And the first one just not shutting up. And then the second one, I wish the film would have shut up. I reviewed this for IGN. It was very middle of the road for me. I think I gave it a 5. or 5 or a 6. I mean, there's nothing quintessentially wrong with Stuber. It's just not enough of an action movie, and it's not enough of a comedy. I think the script undersells everybody. I don't know how much they improvise, but some of that should have been on the cutting room floor. I've seen online adverts for Stuber with jokes that are funnier than jokes that are in the movie. They seem more complete. This whole thing just seemed like a great idea on paper. It just wasn't executed well. A lot of the cast are horribly wasted. Betty Gilpin is one of them. There were so many people in this, characters that really could have been developed very well. We could have, been in line for a sequel of some kind. I think this kills it stone dead. Karen Gillan, completely wasted. Iko is terribly wasted as the villain. The movie was just a really big disappointment, It really was a big disappointment for me because I like Dave Bautista and I like Kamal as well. Yeah. And I'm just like, it just didn't land for me at all. You guys, your thoughts on Stuber? You haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, and I want to just because I like Kumail and I like Dave Bautista so much. Yeah. But the reviews that came out of it were kind of like lukewarm.
It's unfair to them.
Yes.
I think the film really.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised by that.
It's really unfair to Kamal,
yeah.
if you really want to know, because the movie rides so hard on his comedy and his delivery of everything.
Yeah.
He's so funny.
Yeah, and I mean, I watched this movie at South by Southwest, and where I felt like they knew what they had when they screened it that late in the programming. Okay, so it fell on a Wednesday. It didn't happen on the opening weekend, which is always like when they really want to push the good stuff. It's always on the opening weekend, and then they always have something to close it out that they know is going to be pretty strong.
Yeah,
Pet Sematary, Isle of Dogs. Stuber, for me, I think Dave is completely miscast in this movie.
Yeah.
His back and forth, they try, but he just doesn't have that chemistry. He feels out of place.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's so many other people who I really like who are in this movie, like small actors.
Yeah.
And they all feel wasted. The girl who's in, she was in Trophy Wife. She's in Santa Clarita Diaries. I think her name's Natalie something. I don't know her last name.
Oh, Natalie Morales.
Yeah. I really love her. I love her.
Natalie Morales, who was in like a couple episodes of Newsroom.
Yes.
Yeah. I went to college with her.
Oh, wow. Yeah. She's cool. She's really great.
She's just wasted.
Mina Sorvino, completely wasted.
Oh, yeah. And then, that's what the problem. And you can only have Kumail do the jokes for so long.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes wasted.
Yeah.
And the fact that it just runs on the whole idea that, like, hey, my name's Stu, and I drive an Uber. Stuber. Like, it's like, how many times are going to reference that in the movie?
Oh, is that what it is?
Oh, my God. 5-star rating. Give me a 5-star rating. Like, this is not that funny.
It's a movie with some wasted characters in there that I think really, if they'd have worked a bit harder on this, I think they really could have developed that. And as you say, the leads are completely undersold in this. We've got a couple of minutes left on the show. So even though it's out next week, and the reviews came out yesterday, I want to touch on Lion King, a movie we all saw on Tuesday night, which was great. I'm going to start on this one very quickly, guys. I actually really enjoyed the movie. It's a movie that I was not excited about at all. I didn't think we needed it. I think it stayed true enough to the original. But it changed a few things. I welcomed that. I didn't want shot for shot. Some of the effects don't work for me, but there are moments in it that I found uplifting in ways that were different to the first film. Doesn't take anything away from the movie, and some of the things from the original don't lift me up in the same way in this. But really, for me, the whole movie is, as great as the cast is, great cast, Beyonce, Glover, everybody. It's actually Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen as Timon and Pumbaa who own this movie for me. And I think the technology used is great, but I have to say also kudos to Dolby for using Dolby Atmos in this to its maximum effect. It really helps bring this film alive in a way that they simply couldn't have done, I don't think, without Dolby. It certainly adds a lot to this movie. Okay, to you next on this, Scott.
I did not feel the same way that you did.
Okay.
In fact, the more I thought about this movie, the less and less I liked it.
Interesting.
Because when I first got approached after I saw the movie and I spoke to you as well as Wendy, I was like amazed by the visual spectacle of this film.
Yeah. When
I came home and I was thinking about it and I slept on the movie, which is a reason why I don't like to be asked my opinion immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
I basically looked back on it and I said, you know what? As much as I love the visuals in a lot of ways took away from the effectiveness of what made the animated movie so great.
Yeah.
When you have animated, cute animals talking and singing, there's something powerful and fun and lighthearted about it. But when you see it in real life, like photorealistic animals, it seems silly and odd. And there's no, when certain events happen in this movie, we all know what happens in The Lion King. I didn't have that same emotional connection. So the more and more that I thought about it, the less and less I liked it, and I was really upset that it was shot for shot, almost shot for shot.
Do you know what? I think that's fair. Wendy, your thoughts on this quickly?
I actually do agree, because I'm hearing more and more people voicing their concerns as far as like the photorealistic, this version of Lion King, because they're photorealistic, so they don't have those human expressions that we get in the animated. I fully expected that going in, so I didn't mind it one bit. And I also had heard way before like any of the trailers came out, when they screened it, well, not screened it, when they did like a special presentation of it at D23, and my friends were texting me like, it's like a shot for shot, but it's so cool. And I was like, okay, I'm for it. So like from the beginning, I was ready for it. And this, I feel like, is a movie that I was okay with it being shot for shot because of the way they're retelling it, because they're just taking an animated movie that everybody loved, and they're kind of putting a huge visual effects spectacle on it, and I loved. And like, I like what you said about using the Dolby Atmos screen. It was beautiful on the screen. And like, if you're gonna see it, like, don't wait for it to go on streaming. You need to go see this in theater so you can experience it.
I would agree.
With that said, I feel like the cast was great. There was one song in particular that I didn't love. There was one song in particular, and I was really looking forward to it, and it didn't deliver. But everything else was good, so I was fine with it. I really liked, aside from Timon and Pumbaa, who stole the movie, essentially, JD, who played young Simba.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And he gave me those emotional moments during the event where, you know, you heard the pain and the heartbrokenness in his voice, and I boo-hooed.
Yeah.
Like, I brought tissues, and I wore waterproof mascara, and I boo-hooed.
Great. Finally, as good as the original? No.
No.
As good as the original? No.
Close, but no.
And not as good as the original. But I still think it's more justified than I thought it was. Thank you so much for your thoughts on that. Final question from Zeno Hour. Would Stuber work better as a Netflix movie? Yes, it would.
Yes, it would.
We've got to wrap up the show. Thank you so much, everybody, for being involved in this. Scott, who are you? Where can we find you,
Sure,
please?
you can find me on WeLiveEntertainment.com, Twitter and Instagram at @theotherscottm.
And Wendy.
Wendy Lee Zaney on Twitter and Instagram, The Movie Couple on YouTube, and Collider.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Really appreciate it. If you want to follow me, I'm at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter. If you've seen me in San Diego Comic Con, say hello. It's always nice to do that. And I won't be here next week. Scott's going to be in this chair. Dimitri's going to be back next week, and Ashley's going to be joining us.
Yes.
I'm going to be in Comic Con. I will be back in the host chair the week after. Thank you so much. If you like us, like, subscribe, share the podcast, whether you listen to it on Spotify, iTunes, on YouTube, whatever you want to do. Like, subscribe, leave something, spread the word. We really appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and follow us on Twitter at Meet Movie Press. Enjoy the movies. Thank you, guys.
Producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.